Hi, everyone. Welcome to Access Chat. I was actually waiting for Neil to start the program, and I remembered he's not here today. He actually had to go and help his parents. And so it's just Antonio and me, and we're excited to talk to Eugene Woo. And Eugene is the CEO of Venngage. And I do know about this program, and I've known about it for a while, but I did, Eugene, struggle just a little bit of the pronunciation of your company. So maybe we could start off by learning more about you and a little bit of the origin story with your company too.
Sure. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. So the name Venngage is actually a contraction of the word Venn diagram and engage. It's a much longer story, but we decided to just mesh those two words together. Very hard to pronounce and also very hard to spell because it has two ends. It's in it. But how did we get started? So Venngage is a design company that's primarily focused on infographics. So we are a design tool very similar to Canva, but with core accessibility features built in, which we can talk about a little later. But essentially, it started with infographics. I had this interest in creating infographics, and I wasn't a designer. I'm an engineer by training, a software engineer by training, and so this is almost 15 years ago. I wrote a program that essentially took your LinkedIn profile, the information from your LinkedIn profile via an API, and then it would automatically visualize all your career into sort of what we now call an infographic resume. It would have like a pie chart. It would have like a timeline and bar graphs of your years of experience. It looked pretty cool. So that was sort of the genesis of Venngage. And obviously we've, done several rewrites, and here we are today. I mean, we are, I would say one of the few smaller companies in the graphic design space, with the, obviously with the Canvas and the Adobes around as well.
So, Eugene, while Deborah is on mute,
yeah,
I can ask you where accessibility journey fits in the purpose when you're building a brand.
Yeah. So why accessibility? I think that is a very interesting question. We came into digital accessibility sort of I would say, as a product company in a very traditional way. Like our users were asking us about it. So we still have a lot of users in the higher educational space and in government. From federal all the way to local governments, we began to get, I don't know, maybe like this is so pre-COVID, so maybe like 6-7 years ago, we began to get a lot of requests for accessibility features. So they would ask us specifically, can we export a, accessible PDF? Can I get a color contrast checker in all, I don't know how much, everyone knows about accessibility. A lot of those questions were being asked, of us. And we decided, we made a decision about 5 years ago when we were rebuilding our platform to essentially make the entire platform accessible and to focus on accessibility as one of its core features. And we did this for two reasons. One, we thought it was the right thing to do. And the other one also because when we looked at the market, most of our competitors, even now, but definitely back then, had like zero accessibility features. So if you looked at the Adobes and and this will be Adobe Express or what do they call it, Adobe Spark back then, and Canva and a lot of these, I would say, non-professional design tools, none of them had any accessibility features. And so we decided to be the first design tool to have built-in accessibility features. And we still are and we did, innovate a lot of the features that you now see in a lot of accessibility a lot of design tools. For example, having a built-in color checker in the color picker. So when you pick a color, you get this color wheel or something. We were the first tool that actually had a color contrast automatically in there so that you didn't have to go to a separate tool, put in the codes, get the color contrast, and then come back to your design tool. Like everything is done automatically as you're picking the color. Now Figma has it. I think Canva has it as well. I'm not really sure, but we were the ones that innovated, and we've had that feature for like 2.5 years, almost 3 years now.
Wow. So y'all were leaders in the design of accessibility. I remember really, really long time ago. I've been in the field such a long time. So this must have been like 2002, 2003. I had a booth in the United States at a big show. It was a Section 508 show, which 508 is accessibility in the United
Mhm.
States. And Adobe was next to me. And poor Adobe, everybody was lining up to yell at Adobe about not being accessible. I just watched this poor man just all day long. They just was brutal. But I know Adobe's been trying, but they have really big design tools. And so, first of all, thank you for taking such a lead on it. But I would be curious because I was going to ask you a question whenever I was on mute and Antonio beat me. But I'm glad because he took it in an interesting direction. I was going to ask you this question, which I will now ask you. But you were a software engineer, and yet now you're actually a designer. So I'd be curious how you think you're looking at the world differently being trained as a software engineer and moving in design. But at the same time, I can't help but be so curious with this decision you made to listen to your customers and make sure that people were powerfully included. Has this helped your business in ways that surprised you?
So I would say it has, well, me talking to, it has opened up our market to, I guess, a different market, which is what I would call the accessibility focused market or the accessibility market, which obviously had already overlapped with our existing market. But I think the difference was we are now talking to groups that are just accessibility teams within companies and within universities and governments. Whereas before we were basically just, talking to the designers. And so I would say, yeah, it did open up a new market first. Although quite a small market, I don't think that the accessory market is at least for us, it's still maybe 5% of our revenue. It's a very small part of although it is a big part of the platform, it is a small part of our business. The people who actually come to us and say we want accessibility and we want to use the accessibility tools, that still remains a small part of our business, but it is growing. It is growing, and we're quite happy with that. To answer your first question about transitioning from an engineer to a designer, I have to admit, I'm still not a designer. I don't consider myself a designer. I don't, but I have had to transition from actually doing all the technical work to more of like a product designer, which is stepping back, thinking about talking to customers, figuring out looking at user experience as opposed to the code, just how do I implement something. So I would say that has been a pretty interesting experience for me personally, because now you're talking to customers, you're getting feedback from them, and not all of them are good feedback. There's a lot of bad feedback as well. And as you know, most engineers probably don't like to talk to customers, me including, but I've learned how to do that. And it's been quite rewarding because I've learned a lot about, I learn something every time I talk to a customer.
If you look at your customer base and the people that you talk on the daily basis, what are some of the preconceptions that marketing teams still have in what concerns to scale content that is accessible on their campaigns, on their products, on everything that they do?
I would say the number one misconception is that accessibility is still very, very difficult. Accessibility is not accessible, I would say, because when you look, at least for graphic design and PDFs, if you look at the status quo right now is you create it, you take it to Adobe Pro or Acrobat, and then you have to remediate it, which is you have to like fix it. And it's a very technical process. Even I don't know how to do it that well. I can like kind of like do it a little bit, but not really. And I've been in this PDF accessibility field for years now, and I still don't know how to do it. So I think number one is that there's this mental barrier to go like, this is really difficult, right? Like I am not a professional PDF remediator. I cannot do it. And so it doesn't scale. And then I think the other misconceptions is that it's really hard to make something accessible and also make it aesthetically like beautiful. So there is that thing about, the accessibility police is going to come in and essentially make my beautiful design really boring. Why don't I just type out a Word document? That will be accessible and forget about all this other design stuff. I'll just give you a pure text. Then it'll be accessible. So I think there's also, that's an exaggeration, but there's also that misconception that, I cannot apply my brand colors properly. I cannot have like a aesthetic flair and design because it's not accessible. The accessibility team is going to come down on me if I do that. So I think that's also a misconception, largely because they don't, because of the first misconception, they don't understand what it takes, to make something accessible, or what are all the criteria for accessibility. So between those two, like there's this big mental block, and like how can I even go into accessibility?
Okay, I got to ask the word that I know you've nailed all this. How is AI changing what you're doing? Only because it's changing the way we create content. I don't know if y'all know this now, but you don't know these days if a video is real or not, if the content's real, right? So it's like everything has changed. And at first, it seemed like we went to AI. Big corporations threw out their marketing people, and then they're like, "Oh, no, come on back," because actually we do need humans. But are there risks associated using AI generated visuals? Yes. I mean, it's such a big topic, Eugene. How do you begin to wrap your hands around it? And of course, I know you're seen as leaders in the AI in this field. So, and of course, we were saying this before we went on air. I think we all know here AI is the continuation of the internet and technology. But anyway, so Eugene, how's it going to change everything? Because it's really interesting.
Well, yeah, I think I'm going to talk to it as it pertains to design and accessibility. As it pertains to design and accessibility, AI is still fairly nascent. It's still in its infancy right now. And I think, I was talking to someone else like 2 weeks ago. I think the main issue is AI, the image generation models, and the LLMs, the language generation models are trained on existing data, right? Existing websites. And most websites, as you know, are not accessible. So when you ask the AI to create a website for you, well, guess what? Even if you tell it, please make it accessible, the examples it's been trained on are still not accessible. So it will try its best. But because of the data available, and I think the Web Inc., the organization that does this, that does the survey on the top, I think 1 million websites, it's still like 90 something percent of the websites are not accessible. It's an astoundingly large number. So I think that because of that problem, AI is helpful, very helpful in building up the scaffolding and all the stuff that takes a lot of time. But as it pertains, and can make it quite beautiful, but as it pertains to accessibility, as of now, it still doesn't have enough data, unfortunately. And we've tried it. The LLM will sound very confident. The AI will sound very confident. We'll say like, I have coded this website. It's completely accessible. The color contrast is great. And then I'll look at it and go like, no, it's not. that is a lie.
So true.
Groves actually, he's a accessibility expert. He made this quote. He said something like, okay, Carl, he said that AI is as bad as it is right now, which is the truth, right? So it's only going to get better. So I do think that as bad as it is right now in accessibility, it's going to improve. And so I'm quite optimistic that AI will be able to help us create accessible websites. We just got to put more data and train it properly. And as it pertains to graphic design, it should be able to also create things that are accessible with color contrast, proper color contrast. It doesn't do layerings right now, but that's what we do in Venngage. We actually take we mix AI with our own technology, and we're able to create different layers with proper headings and all of that. And so I think that AI will be very positive, with as it pertains to digital accessibility, although it is still at its infancy right now.
I agree. And before Antonio comes in, I'm just going to say too that I know that there's been talk about AI is going to wipe out the accessibility field in a year or something like that. I think instead the opportunity is to really drive in as entrepreneurs and think about how AIs can improve what we're doing. They're tools. AI is a tool, and it can solve so many problems, not all of the problems, but I think what I'm seeing, and I think you would say this as well, Eugene. It's like AI used as a tool can be so beneficial to our community. But I think the accessibility providers, the vendors, they need to stop fighting AI and figuring out how AI could really help instead of just assuming AI is going to kill us all. I think we have an opportunity to look and see how do we do it different. And I think you are doing that, Eugene. So compliments to you there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I agree with you on that statement. I do think that I mean, it's not just AI. They're saying it for every other industry.
Yes.
They're like, all white collar jobs are going to be gone, for example.
Right.
And I'm like, I
But
don't know. I don't think so.
we actually have to, the humans have to have the will to make that happen. I hear leaders saying, I heard this about 6 months ago, so I guess we got a year and a half, 90% of jobs are going to be gone. And I was like, are you kidding me? We can't even figure out how to do the littlest things right now.
Right.
Humans would have to agree we're going to wipe all these jobs out that quickly. It doesn't even make sense. Instead, looking at it as a tool, looking at it, how can we, with everything that the AI is doing with our graphics, how do we make sure it does work? And we still need human engineers and design in this.
Yeah, and I also think the other thing. Well, I don't know. Maybe AI will figure out how to do this, but you still need humans to put new information into the models, right? Like AI as we know now, it's not. We haven't reached like AGI or like the actual intelligence. So we still have to feed the models with data that are biologically created by humans. I think until AI creates its own data and its own original research and all of that, which may happen. I don't know. Maybe that will happen. I think that will be a long, that may be decades. Who knows? I don't know.
And the
I still
bias,
think
and the bias that we've scheduled in.
correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yes. And all of that stuff. And as it pertains to jobs, I would say that, so I have a company, a small company. We employ about like 50 people. And I always use myself as when I hear about these statements like, oh, all the jobs are going to be gone. I always go like, am I able to now replace a person with AI? And the answer as of today is still no. I have not been able to replace. Yeah, I haven't been able to replace. They've made people a lot more efficient and more productive, including myself. It's made me a lot more efficient and productive. So I'm able to do more. However, it hasn't actually replaced. I haven't been able to replace anyone. And I always joke, I'm like, I wish it were true. Then I can have fewer employees, right? But the truth is, it's not true.
Yes.
And I think, and the people who said who had made the predictions of like how, I think they made those predictions a year ago that said, oh, in a year they'll be, and it's like, that prediction keeps going on until, I don't know, until it's not true, I guess.
Yes.
When I was a kid, I remember having a Walt Disney book, and on that book there was a factory building robots. No, this was many years ago, and the robots were being built to replace all the cartoons. And then you start to have all these issues where the robots are going to fight against themselves, fighting against each other. So these ideas of robots replacing humans, this is something that has been around for quite a number of years around science fiction, and now things are becoming more, into our day-to-day reality. But these old images are still coming over and over, repeating itself. I have a question, Eugene. You are an entrepreneur. You have responsibility over people. You probably invest money on personal development, your employees. You might invest on research. With all this pressure on AI, don't you feel that we all need to rush on AI? We need to do this AI, and we might leave behind other things that are also important?
Oh, that's a very good question. So yes, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, and we are probably guilty of doing that. We are so focused on AI right now. I would say in the last 18 months, the main user experience of designing infographic or a poster used to be you pick a template and then you kind of like manually do it, manually like swap things around. Now it's all, you write a prompt. You can still pick a template, but or we'll pick it for you. But you write a prompt, you tell us what you want to build or what you want to like design, and then we just like do it for you. And then there's a chat assistant. So you're right. We have been very focused on AI, but I do think the main thing is it's important not to do AI for the sake of doing AI. So we're always, and going back to user, right? Like so for us, our problem that we're trying to solve for our customers and for our users is how do you make design more accessible in not just digital accessibility, but also like make it easier for non-designers, people who are not professional designers. And that has always been the focus. So even when we're thinking about AI tools, we don't just like, oh, let's just implement an AI feature just because it's out there and you can do it. We always figure out like, hey, what's the end goal? Like the user, the user still needs to do X, Y, Z. And if AI can't do it, well, we'll let them do it manually still. For example, picking a template, like a lot of people still like to browse and pick as opposed to have the AI, choose it for you. And so we give them both options now. Like we can pick one and then we'll have the gallery there and you can pick another one and then we will do that. So I think Antonio, you're right. It's very important to still remember, like, let's solve human problems and use AI to help us as opposed to just do AI for the sake of AI, right? This is sort of similar to how when crypto was out there, people just building crypto for the sake of crypto, right? Oh, I'm going to build this Ethereum backed platform for chat. I'm like, well, you can just build a chat platform if you wanted to build it. There's no need to add like a Bitcoin back end to it or something like that, right? So I think the same with AI, just don't have it for the sake of having AI. It is all about helping us solve problems at the end of the day.
So to complement this, we know that today many people start their search within in ChatGPT, Perplexity, and many other platforms. Have you felt the need to do any changes in the way how you communicate, in the way how you build your site to adjust to the way how people are changing behaviors in relation to search?
Yes, I would say so. Search is the main method that people finds us, or what we call organic search. And our blog used to be the number one place where people find us. It's not, but as of I would say last year and continuing now, the blog has like 10% of the traffic that it used to have. So we used to drive literally millions of visitors to our blog. Now we drive, I don't know, like less than 50,000 maybe. It's pretty much been like wiped out pretty much by the AI answers. And so we have been trying to figure out how do we make our content more mentionable. But I think at the end of the day, it didn't really, I don't know this. I mean, if someone knows, they can tell me. We haven't actually changed that. We're still trying to figure out, is there a way to quote unquote write content that can actually get someone to come to our blog? And I think it's a really difficult battle because even the content we write, the AI, the LLMs will scrape it, will put it in their model, and it will display it. It might give us a link. It might say, "Oh, this was mentioned," but people don't click into it. They just read the information. There is no need, right, to come to our website when they can read it. And I do it myself. Like I'm asking ChatGPT everything, and I'm just reading it. Very rarely do I ever click on the references. Only if I have to see. Well, it used to be only if I have to see an image. Now they are showing images as well, so I don't even have to do that anymore. And so I think it is a big problem in a sense that content creators it's very difficult to get a visitor to come to your site now because all that information is available on the AIs, like Perplexity and ChatGPT and Gemini. There's no need to. And yeah, I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. I wish I did. Then we would get all that traffic back.
That is so interesting, though. I haven't heard anyone talking about the numbers like you have. I'm also a content creator. I mean, Access Chat is a content creator. It is really interesting, though, Eugene. It is interesting because how do you stand out in this world? It's fascinating. And it also feels like sometimes the things that stand out the most, of course, are the things that are a little bit controversial and going to get people a little heated. And which, of course, we have that's just part of our world right now. But I'm going to ask you a very, very unfair question, Eugene. I'm sorry, but where do you think the future of design tools are heading in the next 5 to 10 years? And it's so funny to say 5 to 10 years because it's like in the next 5 months. I mean, we used to say 5 to 10 years. I don't even know how that works anymore, but yeah.
So I think I'm going to talk about, so I think there's two tiers of design tools. So there's one would be, I would say, the professional design tools. These will be the Adobe Illustrators and all of that. I think those design tools will pretty much be the same, but AI powered, right? So you are now, instead of you having to draw the actual paths, you can just like either, dictate or just type it in and say, draw all these paths and then apply these filters, this mask and all the features that you could do. I do think I think the incumbents will pretty much still be there. That is my on the professional side because the barrier is so much higher. It's a lot more difficult to do those kind of stuff. On the lower end, on the non-professional side, so these are tools like Venngage and Canva and the Adobe Express, the easy to use or the do-it-yourself kind of tools. I think those tools will change, would be very, very different. I think there would be probably all be prompt-based tools where you're just prompting, either you're speaking or you're typing, and you're not manually editing as much anymore. So the what we call the drag and drop or the WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get interface, which is the PowerPoint interface where you're dragging things around. I think that interface will probably change to something that's more AI friendly, which at least for now is the prompt. It's the chat, right? For now, it's a chat. So you'll have this AI assistant that is gonna just do the work for you, as in like, oh, apply my brand colors, change this image to something else, apply a filter to this image. I want it to say this instead of that, and it'll just all do it for you. And you can kind of speed up design a lot faster that way. And then when you're done, you can say something like, oh, make sure make everything accessible, make sure it's accessible, export it to an accessible PDF format, and so forth and so forth. Like, which that is actually quite close. I think we're probably like a year away from that, 6 months to a year away from that. I mean, even in Venngage, we are building out our AI assistant, our chat assistant, and it can do, a fair bit of things right now.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast it's changing and moving. It's hard to predict it. But I know that we've kept you on for 30 minutes. So first of all, I want to thank Amazon for sponsoring us. We are so grateful for them keeping us on air. But Eugene, I want to make sure that people, first of all, we'd like to know how to read that blog, because we should read blogs written by humans, especially when it comes to design and accessibility. So please do go and read this blog, because those numbers are scary. We need to read blogs by real humans. So, but will you tell the audience how to find it about your blog and also your company and how to contact with you?
Sure.
Contact with you too.
So the company is Venngage, is VENNGAGE.com. And once you're on the homepage, you can click on our blog. And again, we are a design platform very similar to Canva, except if you want accessible designs, especially in accessible PDFs, we have all those features built in. You don't have to remediate your design after you're done. Pretty much when you export it, it is compliant. And and we're probably the only tool that does a PDF UA, which is the standard for PDF compliance out there right now.
Right. And I also would say to the audience, we need to support vendors that are supporting us. So I actually use Canva and some of the Adobe tools. I need to come over and use Venngage, because seriously, one thing we have to do as a community is we have to support the vendors that are supporting us. And so that's one reason why we wanted you to come on, Eugene. So we thank you for that.
Yeah, and on that point, I was going to say, like, we do offer free, sort of like lifetime free accounts to consultants like yourself, consultants and anyone in the accessibility space. So just contact me. I'm on LinkedIn, by the way. You can contact me, Eugene Woo, at LinkedIn, and we'll give you a free account.
Yay. All right. Well, I will be doing that, Eugene. Thank you so much, Eugene. Once again, the website is www.vennagage. Gage. It's just like thank you, Eugene. Thank you, Antonio. And Neil, hope you're having fun with your parents. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Antonio. Appreciate it.